Trouble in Paradise podcast is intended for mature audiences. This means you will hear realistic adult language such as and go off. Audience discretion is advised.
What is knob polishing?
You're gonna make me say this. I am a neglected man.
I like to think that I look like a jack, even though my name's really Bob.
Does he have danglers or something?
Well, it's time to go do them lighthouse duties.
Sitting in the cheese at the old Walmart to cool off.
That should be the headline. Man tasered in the nuts after stealing beef.
Yeah, but you're not gonna sit in the cheese. You're not gonna sit in the cheese, and you're not gonna put ribeyes down your pants either.
House cleaning is secondary. So what is the Viagra triangle?
Possibly you aid in your digestion.
I don't know if his little hand is smaller than his little ears or what.
Aw, well maybe he has a syndrome.
You want to go check out my RV? It's parked right around the corner. Because I'm pretty sure that I saw some moose knuckle.
No.
There is absolutely some moose knuckle going on.
My swampy friend. What the hell is a swampy friend?
I know. So they're not going to get any scraping on their shaft.
Yes, I'm going to do a downward dog.
Okay, pretty lady. You had on those gosh darn sexy leather looking shorts.
Ladies and gentlemen, and assholes, gather around. It's time for another action-packed episode of
Trouble in Paradise.
Hi, I'm Nigel Kent.
And I'm Jazmine Starr.
And welcome to Trouble in Paradise.
Our show is a free-thinking, open-minded podcast discussing conspiracy theories, the paranormal, true crimes against humanity, plus our favorite Only in Florida stories.
And we are probably going to skip the Only in Florida stories tonight, Jazmine Starr, because we are not in Florida. We are somewhere quite distant from Florida. Why don't you tell our audience about that real quick?
Yes, we are on the road right now, and we are in Vicksburg, Mississippi. So if you hear some dogs and some low woofing, you'll have to excuse that because we have our dogs on the road with us. Just a quick disclaimer, the content presented by Trouble in Paradise contains speculation and conjecture and is intended as educational material and is not intended as educational material or advice. It is therefore not misinformation and does adhere to YouTube's community guidelines.
For sure. And speaking of YouTube's community guidelines, we have made it to episode 55 of Trouble in Paradise,
55.
Which is also presented on a couple of other platforms. Where else can our audience find out about our great program?
Well, if you're not watching us here and you haven't liked and subscribed, please hit that like and subscribe button. And that way you get notifications when we go live on here. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, you can find us at Trouble239, Twitter at Tipcast239, email at trouble239.com, Patreon, Trouble239, and we're available on all major podcatchers.
And, of course, don't forget to get into the live chat if you're watching on YouTube tonight. We're going to cover some really, really fun stuff, which I'm about to tease. You know, there are people that get made fun of and beat up in the schoolyard, Jazmine Starr. They get put down and name-called and all this stuff because they believe stuff that's not exactly what everybody else believes. It's not what they report on the news, and yet these people, they believe it, and they try to convince their friends that it's true, and they get called
Madam Fruitcake.
Madam Fruitcake, yes.
Or so I've been called.
They get called lots of bad names.
I know.
Because they're conspiracy theorists.
Yes. I just prefer to call myself a theorist.
Well, I mean, I like conspiracies are pretty much just cooperations between people, right?
I mean, or philosophizing. I mean, what's wrong with just having
I want to become an excellent philosophizer. My goal after I graduate from community college is to become a professional philosophizer. So, we are in a makeshift studio this evening. Yes. Why don't you tell everybody kind of how our studio came together in the last 2 hours?
So, yeah.
While I take a sip of the delicious 7 and 7 that you poured for me, how did our studio get built this evening?
Well, tonight we took an emergency run after we saw this beautiful shade of meconium green. For those of you who are familiar with newborn babies, or something in the shade of split pea soup. So we took a quick ride over to a Big Lots and found ourselves. We fashioned ourselves our own green screen.
We sure did. We found an old green. I guess it's a shower curtain.
It's a
right?
shower curtain. We have a shower curtain behind us.
And as you can see, it's not quite wide enough for the camera angle. And Jasmine and I are real super cuddly this evening. Sitting on the convertible hide-a-bed that has been provided by the Best Western Motel here in beautiful Vicksburg, Mississippi. So, it's been a crazy week.
We've done a lot of stuff this week.
Yes, we have. We have indeed.
Yeah.
We started the week by traveling northward through Florida.
Yep.
From our home base in Naples.
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped in, where did we stop? Pensacola?
We were in Pensacola. And then we went to New Orleans and had a afternoon and evening there. Walked around, had some fun on Bourbon Street. I got to have a little bit of a traditional paranormal experience in the restroom at the what was it, the Park Royal? Is that what?
The Royal House.
Royal House.
Yes.
Pardon me for
1 block off of Bourbon Street, across from the hotel.
Yeah. Which that was a little fun.
So what happened in the bathroom of the Royal House? I mean, you were sharing some more with me about that today, and I'm like, how did you keep this under wraps?
Well, for anyone that follows me on Instagram or knows me, knows what I do on here, sometimes has watched the Epstein Island video. I do
Definitely
readings.
Check it out. It's our number one video on YouTube.
I am a psychic medium. So sometimes if, like any one of us, if somebody is able to be receptive and open, and there's somebody around, they like to let you know that they're around. And I happened to be in the bathroom, and I knew I was
at the Royal House.
I knew I was completely
in New Orleans, in the bathroom.
I knew I was completely alone. However, I was not alone, and the door started to I wouldn't say violently, but noticeably jiggle to let me know
was it a jiggle or a wobble?
It was a kind of like I would say there was a good 10 to 15 jiggles on the door, like, hey, are you okay in there?
So you're in the Royal House in New Orleans, and you're, I'm assuming, pooping, and so the stall starts to jiggle. Now, in a men's...
Automatically, I'm pooping because I'm in a stall.
Well, that's how it works in the men's restroom.
Well, there's a big difference between men and women here. Come on now.
All right, so you're looking around. It's fair to say you're sitting down, right? You're not standing.
You do have the visuals of the pictures that I sent you, correct?
No, I don't. And
okay,
so
well,
did you look around the bottom of the stall to see if anybody else was around?
I took my time in the bathroom, honestly, because there was some first in the stall door were some positive affirmations, which were just beautiful to read.
What do you mean?
Well, I'll pull up a couple of them.
Are we talking about graffiti?
Yeah, where people were decorating the.
There was graffiti inside a bathroom stall?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that for a second.
In New Orleans?
Especially in New Orleans.
Nah.
It's the cleanest place on earth.
Yeah, but we had these beautiful positive words of affirmation in this stall. So I was kind of, checking it out and snapping a few pictures. Live your life. You only get one. Stacy and Johnny.
Oh, so these are positive.
You are
graffitis.
fierce. You are a goddess. You are worth it. Don't settle for just okay. I believe in you. Love, Julia. Be your own hero from Texas with love. Love yourself. Sending positive vibes from New Jersey. Love, Shasine.
So people were just bringing their Sharpie markers into the women's stall at
And
the Royal
then-
House and writing positive, affirming messages
And then
inside the stall while they peed.
Well, and then the side one then has a bunch of phallic symbols drawn on it.
You mean like crude drawings of penises?
Oh yeah, women are phenomenal drawers. It's like they've been sent like pictures on their phones or something over the years.
Oh, brother.
And Stacy apparently has the biggest that somebody has ever had. And then somebody's pointing up with the arrow saying classy, and somebody, then there's a bigger one drawn and it just says awesome. And it just goes on from there. So anyway,
It seems to me like it's a chat wall scrolling up the inside of the, of the stall
so
where women are talking about penis drawings.
So I was taking my time. I was enjoying
the penis drawings.
I was enjoying the ambiance of the bathroom, and then I had my little paranormal experience. Maybe just telling me, like enough pictures now, get out of there.
Maybe it's the inhabitant of the bathroom that is putting these messages on the wall. You go, girl. You're the best. You're the best. Be positive. Here's a penis.
Yeah. Go and get it.
Go and get it. So New Orleans was interesting. I think that my big takeaway from New Orleans was just the absolute, like, unlimited level of just filth. I mean, like, nasty in that town. Everything is draining to the gutter. And you can't go very far in New Orleans without something dripping on your head. Like, there's all these balconies all over the place, and homeless people laying tent cities everywhere.
It's a big city. It's, but I really do believe that it also is evidence that they're really, they haven't recovered from Katrina. There's quite a bit of that, I believe.
So Katrina was 13, 14 years ago?
I still think it's quite evident. You have a party city. You have, you looked at some of the, just that like mass load of cars with like the recliner and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's a dirty city. I mean, it smells like
it smells like urine.
It smells like urine and marijuana everywhere you go.
Oh yeah, it was inescapably, like, the odor of marijuana was inescapable. We were walking around New Orleans, and I think we finally got back to our hotel room, all the way up the elevator, up 3 levels into our hotel room, and finally we closed the door, and we were like, there's no marijuana smell inside our hotel room.
We're finally in the clear.
So live chat, welcome Sydney Gleason. It's
All
Dana
right.
finally, she says.
Whoop, whoop, Dana.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. Hello.
Yep, welcome to the live chat.
Welcome. So you finally figured out your technology. I've just got this like idea, like they were just like sitting there fucking with their phone, trying to figure out how to get on there, and finally is like somebody arrived and helped them get logged in.
Yep, so that's awesome.
So welcome.
So we had New Orleans, and then we left New Orleans and we went to Texarkana.
Yes.
Spent
4 nights.
4 nights.
Yeah. So Texarkana is interesting because it is not only where my mom and sister live, but it is also it's like this epicenter where 4 different states kind of converge.
Yeah.
And so within like 30 minutes, you can drive, well, a little longer for Oklahoma, but you can get to Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma all within a very short period of time. So we got a picture standing on the state line between Texas and Arkansas. Thank you to my sister Dana for pointing that out as a tourist, big-time tourism spot, big-time tourism in Texarkana.
Yes. Yeah.
I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen,
I had my own experience there.
you're a beautiful place where you could stand on the line and just be divided if you feel like it, or you could be unified. It's up to you.
Yep.
So we had a good time. And what else did we do? We dropped in on a bicycle shop.
Yep. We did.
And the guy was complaining. The owner of the bicycle shop was complaining.
I ripped my pants there at the
Is it true or false that you attempted to pole dance at the state line of Texas and Arkansas?
I will neither confirm nor deny either statement.
But it's possible. Would you at least submit that it's possible that this happened?
Just like trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole, it's difficult to maneuver around a square pole.
So, there's something that you mentioned to me earlier yesterday when we were talking about accents. And you told me that I was picking up the twang.
You were.
Care to explain what you mean by that?
Going through the drive-through at one of the restaurants, and you just got all twangy.
I think that was Chick-fil-A, wasn't it?
No.
Was I like, thank you?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. See, now you're doing it.
Well, no, I just happened to spontaneously do that.
Oh, okay. So this one here is from Philadelphia. Everybody who knows me knows I'm from Cleveland. You want to tell me what the hell happened to the Cleveland Indians a couple days ago, Jasmine Star?
What happened to the Indians?
Yeah.
They just got...
They ceased to be?
Well, I would just say they just got demasculinized would be the wording I would choose.
I think they got erased. I think they got deleted, like Facebook style, censored.
I think it's just we've gone way too far. I mean, just come on, people.
All this we.
Society. I mean, just too many of these sensitive
minorities,
sensitive Sallies.
Oh, but it hurts their feelings.
Their one feeling. Like
they have one feeling and it hurts it.
Like eventually, I mean, when we're getting into a state where we can't, we have to feel embarrassed about our own race, our own heritage. We're using pronouns.
Do you know why the Indians were called the Indians to begin with? Because they used to be called the Cleveland Spiders. And one of their greatest players at the turn of the century was an American Indian. And he was so good, they decided people started calling the Spiders the Indians because this guy was such a badass. And so they just renamed the team after him.
Yeah.
And now they're erasing that legacy.
So growing up outside of Gettysburg, all of our softball teams were named after tribes. So I was an Apache, and we had the Sioux and, all these other ones. And now I'm wondering I'm like, are they going to rename all of the, like our little Pee-wee softball team, like team names now?
Yeah, probably. They'll probably get there. But so they've got to rename the Blackhawks. Okay, the Chicago Blackhawks, the hockey team, the Vancouver Canucks. That's an ethnic name. They're going to have to rename the Montreal Canadiens. That's an ethnic name. They're going to have to rename the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That's an ethnic name. There's probably more. Those are just the 4 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Why don't we just stop and allow human beings to be human beings? And humanity to just go on its natural course. And
let people call shit what they want to call shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did it become so offensive? Like,
It never was. It never was. I mean, the
all
Cleveland
of a
Browns
sudden-
are named after a guy named Paul
all
Brown.
of a sudden, COVID happened, and then
They were working on the Indians for a while
and
before
now,
that, though.
But it's like everything just has to become a shit show.
So, speaking of shit shows, today on Trouble in Paradise, we
Continuing
are
on the
going to
shit
be
show.
presenting you with some very exciting conspiracy theories that actually came true, which means they're not conspiracy theories, they're conspiracy facts. Let me get this thing out of my shirt. Since we're giggling. We're over here giggling. Meanwhile,
Bring on the facts.
the dog in the background is just barking her head off.
I think it's, one of our listeners she may be sensing one of the,
One of our audience members.
yes.
So, a conspiracy theory that comes true is not rare. Not rare at all. We're going to skip over the Gulf of Tonkin, MK Ultra, the photographic problems with the moon landings, or the treasure trove of amazing historical facts that are now taken for granted as the truth. And could you imagine that before they were proven true and accepted, many breaking news items were once considered conspiracy theories by the very news outlets that broke them?
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all.
So what if I told you, Jasmine Starr,
I mean,
that
this happens all the time.
It does. But people just have a short memory, right? They forget that people were calling vaccine passports a conspiracy theory a year ago. Now,
It's not going to happen.
it's going to happen. It's already happening.
No, but that's what they said a year ago.
Oh, it can never happen. Don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. That's misinformation, and it was thrown up on your
No,
link,
that's
and
true.
you were censored
That's
and
true.
everything.
People were censored for talking about that.
Yeah, and you were deplatformed for talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we're now in a time and place where this is a very real thing.
All right. So let's stay on topic. We're going to talk about conspiracy theories that actually decided to come true.
This is one that
And what if I told you this? What if I told you that the United States and world governments used snatched babies and children to research the effects of radiation weaponry after the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
I would believe that. Yeah.
Well, it's actually true. This is one that was broken in 2001, as a matter of fact. According to ABC News, half a century after secret studies on the effects of radioactive fallout were carried out in the United States and Britain, the world is waking up to the body snatching of the 1950s. Called Project Sunshine, studies conducted on dead babies sought to measure the amount of radioactive strontium-90 being absorbed by humans due to nuclear testing. On Tuesday, the Australian Ministry for Health and Aged Care launched an investigation into reports of Australian baby samples being dispatched for Project Sunshine without the parents' permission. So, as we find, there's these stories where, indeed, it seems like the powers that be are obsessed with fetal tissue, children's blood, babies' blood, tissue from babies. Like this kind of falls into that same pattern again, where they're taking the bodies of babies and tissue from babies that had been treated in hospitals,
Right.
for the purpose of determining how effective their nuclear weapons were. Now, mind you, they're trying to figure out how good their nuclear weapons work. This is after they dropped them.
And a considerable number of years later.
Well, yeah, and hundreds of thousands of people died in Japan. I mean, who even knows how many actual? There's no way they can tell. So, I mean, More than 1,500 cadavers, many of them babies, were gathered from half a dozen countries from Europe to Australia in the 1950s for the studies on the effects of radiation conducted by the now defunct Atomic Energy Commission. Atomic Energy Commission. Energy is one of those keywords, right? Project Sunshine, which was conducted under the auspices of the U.S. Department of Energy and the UK Atomic Energy Authority, attempted to study the absorption of strontium-90, a radioactive isotope in human tissue, primarily bone. In June 1995, a Presidential Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments, set up by former President Clinton, released classified documents from the Atomic Energy Commission, which showed that scientists working on Project Sunshine were aware of the dubious ethical and legal grounds on which their research was being conducted. Trust your government, people. Trust your government. So, I mean, what do you think? Like when we hear that, like they're trying to inject all these babies with this experimental vaccine now, it kind of has some echoes, right? It's got some repeats in history.
Well, do you honestly want me to get into that right now?
Well, I mean, if you don't go full negative.
I can't not go full negative right now on that.
All right, then we will move on to the next one.
Thank you.
How about, oh, this is good because I'm having a whiskey drink right now. It says the U.S. government intentionally poisoned alcoholic beverages and killed tens of thousands of citizens. Do you believe it?
I do believe that.
That one's pretty easy to accept, right?
Well, they just did that not too long ago. Like, it was just a few years ago, I believe, in some tourist country.
Where they were poisoning the... Oh, yeah. That might have been that thing that happened in Cuba. Where
it wasn't in Cuba.
Where hundreds and hundreds of people got sick.
But, like, the tourists, and they had determined, like, that they were doing something to the rum that was going to the resorts, like the tourist resorts and everything, and like they were actually, there was like this like string of tourist deaths and everything that happened. It wasn't that long ago, but so yeah, this one wouldn't surprise me. No.
So between 1920 and 1933, America engaged in a, quote, noble experiment.
A noble experiment.
It's also a code name, the Noble Experiment, prohibiting the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation thereof into or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes. Via the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, they did this amendment. It was a freaking constitutional amendment about alcohol. Mm-hmm. It'd be like the same as them making a constitutional amendment about like weed. It's utterly insane.
Do you know what this makes me think of, though?
What?
A government that's intentionally poisoning alcohol during Prohibition has echoes of today.
Well, I mean, it kind of does have echoes. Prohibition was the result of a moral crusade that blamed much of society's ills upon alcohol. As long as some people have been imbibing in mind-altering substances, others have voiced their moral opposition to such intoxication. To be fair, individuals abusing alcohol certainly do cause serious harm to their lives and their families. Yet Prohibition arguably was ineffective in preventing such harm. Indeed, it created more. It's because it created black markets. Mm-hmm. The American public managed to evade the law to a considerable degree, as evidenced by the increase in consumption of alcohol during that time. It's true, though. Like you tell like a teenager they can't do something, that's like they're going to automatically go and want to do it.
Well,
or a 20-something.
Exactly. Well, and people are going to capitalize on it too.
Yeah, scarcity creates demand.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's, again, it's echoing what's going on today. When people know that there's going to be a shortage, it creates fear, which in turn is going to create demand. Yeah, for sure. C, legislating behavior that involves what people put into their bodies restricts their freedom to dispose of their bodies in the manner they wish. And because people naturally seek that freedom, they will find a way to use illicit substances even when the behavior is illegal.
That means there are only two kinds of people who profit from prohibition: criminals and those who pursue them. Think of the money spent on the war on drugs. As a result, prohibition usually fails to achieve its stated purpose: prevent the use of substances that result in harm to the consumer and others. So, but this doesn't even get to the bottom line here. The United States government actually put poison into the substances that they were using to render moonshine during Prohibition. And they had people cooperating, mobsters cooperating with them to create this poisonous liquor. And literally tens of thousands of American consumers were poisoned to death. Yeah. Sorry about the description, folks. We'll fix that on the next one. Thank you. This is why we need an actual producer. We're working on this. Ladies and gentlemen and assholes, we are working on getting a producer. Anybody that knows how to produce YouTube/podcast, get in touch. trouble@trouble239.com. You can email us. Because our live stream is still going under the Surfside Collapse description. So we'll fix that later on. So they call it a moral crusade. They always call it a moral crusade.
Right.
But then it ends up being an absolutely devilish scheme.
Right.
Where people are getting murdered. Mm-hmm. Pretty terrible. What if I told you, Jazmine Star, that the Dalai Lama has a long history of being a Nazi sympathizer and backed by the CIA, which means you pay for his paycheck?
Okay.
This one's tough. This is a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, I would have a tough time swallowing this one, I think.
Yeah, this one's difficult.
Now, the Nazi part is, I think, you know, how he could sympathize. I could see that being their culture, but
not really though, because China historically was the enemy of the Nazis during World War II.
But their ideology and their belief system and what they are trying to their ascension and what they strive to be.
You mean the Chinese?
No, the Dalai Lama.
Oh, Buddhists.
Yeah. So, from that standpoint, I could see where there could be a certain level of that. But the CIA part, this is what I want to hear about.
All right. The 5 Nazis on the 1938 Nazi expedition to Tibet, who saw Tibet as a model for a Nazi society, resulted in lifelong friendships with hardcore Nazis, and the Nazis finding more in common with the Dalai Lama than just interest in the swastika and its occult symbolism. A 1994 photo from the Dalai Lama's own website. In the middle is the Dalai Lama. On the Dalai Lama's immediate right is former Nazi SS death squad leader Heinrich Heer. On the Dalai Lama's immediate left is friend of the Dalai Lama, Nazi SS death squad leader and convicted Nazi war criminal Dr. Bruno Beger, who was convicted of mass murder at Auschwitz, Nazi death camp in Poland during World War II. Compare with earlier pictures of the Dalai Lama being embraced by mass murderer Bruno Beger and appearing on the front cover of Bruno's book. Shoko Asahara, admirer of Hitler and the leader of the fascist cult in Japan that launched a sarin gas attack in a Tokyo subway. These are modern day, within the last 30 years, not going all the way back to World War II, modern day terrorists being photographed with the current Dalai Lama.
Okay, well, that could go back to something like, saying like, oh, well, Trump was photographed with
Jeffrey Epstein at some party.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, so tell me how this proves to be a true conspiracy theory.
Well, interesting.
How is he CIA backed?
Well, we're getting to that. There's more. Also known as the Butcher of Chile, neo-Nazi and protector of fugitive Nazi war criminals, and also a good friend of Dalai Lama, who avoided extradition to Spain and was tried for mass murder in a Spanish port with the aid and abetting from Dalai Lama. FBI files show that Pinochet, that's the guy photographed here, was a proven terrorist committing terrorism on U.S. soil. Who knows what they're referring to there, but Buddhists are not supposed to kill any sentient life forms. What kind of Buddhist, let alone Buddhist monk, let alone Buddhist Dalai Lama, would aid and abet CIA murder in Tibet 1949 to keep lifelong and hardcore unrepentant Nazis as close friends? What goes a little bit further, too, is that after World War II, the Dalai Lama was receiving off and on receiving a salary from the CIA to the tune of about $180,000 a year. And it turned into an anti-Chinese Tibetan separatist mission that the CIA had the Dalai Lama on. And I know there's a lot of like hashtag free Tibet, like if you go back like 10 years even on Twitter, like towards the beginning of Twitter. That stuff has kind of resonated over the years and still. So that's an interesting one. I don't want to say that it's not plausible, but it's also, this is not a very reputable website either. So who knows? This one could be, I don't know if this one's been proven or not.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one.
This doesn't look like it's an altered photo, though.
I mean, I believe that those photos were...
This is today's Dalai Lama, though. This is the modern day Dalai Lama with swastikas.
I'm not... Yeah, I do see that.
I mean, that's him. That's the guy right now.
Yeah.
Now, what if I told you, Jasmine Star, that the concept of the vaccine passport was in the works years ago, and Big Pharma conspired with the government to get the idea off the ground?
I would believe that.
Would you?
Yeah.
I mean, like they were working on this prior to the Trump administration, weren't they?
Absolutely believe that.
So this is actually a pretty damning article from March of this year.
I believe that this is why episode 51 was taken off of YouTube.
Yeah, so everybody knows our episode 51 was deleted by YouTube, and we were given a warning from YouTube that we violated their community standards for giving advice about how to treat COVID-19.
Which we did not.
We did not. What we did do is we pointed out similarities in concept between the discoveries of a podiatrist in the 1990s who removed foreign objects from human bodies.
That had a connection to a government official that was privately funding
UFO research, basically.
Well, but he was privately funding this research with these implants, and that contained nanotechnology, and in doing so, they found biomarkers, bioluminescent markers, and then in a 2011 Defense One article, in the science and technology section, in 2011, they were injecting U.S. soldiers with a bioluminescent marker and actually testing them to see if they were showing signs of influenza.
So we mentioned that could have been one reason why the article or the episode got banned. We also mentioned that there were remarkable similarities between...
These are published articles, so it's not misinformation.
These are misinformation. No.
They're published articles.
So the real problem is that they're censoring people for speculating about data that's already out there.
Right.
And they're kicking people off YouTube for speculating about stuff that's like legit stuff.
So this concept about it being in the works does not surprise me, because I know according to the Defense One article, that we were already
they've been trying to do this for years.
We were already testing the bioluminescent markers on U.S. soldiers in 2011.
And which, by the way, the contract, when you join the armed forces, you pretty much give up many of your human rights in exchange for a GI Bill or
Right.
help with college, or so then that they can do those stupid experiments on you.
Right, and that experiment was under the direction and was being done by DARPA.
You're right, which is part of the DoD. So, conspiracy theory comes true regarding vaccine passports. The coronavirus pandemic, which has exposed us to mandatory changes in every aspect of our lives, from our daily routines to our general habits for more than a year, is now preparing to introduce a second passport that would show our health status for travel. The world could not stop the pandemic despite warnings, restrictions, and even vaccines. That's all you need to hear. Mm-hmm. There's a vaccine for it, folks. You would think it would be cured by now. This is also the only vaccine ever in the history of anything that results in a higher death rate among those who have received it than among those who have not.
Right.
This will probably get deleted too. It won't be long. Watch now because it's going to go away, folks. By the way, welcome to the live chat. Everybody that's watching,
Right.
Thank you for joining us. Come on and jump on in here. Jazmine is manning the live chat if you'd like to interact that way. Says the vaccine passport, a candidate to become the new reality of our lives, will allow EU citizens to travel freely within the Union for now. The EU, socioeconomically affected by the virus to a significant extent, could not withstand the persistent pressure of some members of a tourism-oriented economy. Why are they referring to the EU as a tourism-oriented economy? Probably because the only country actually manufacturing shit anymore is China. You think that's why?
Well, pretty much, yeah. Everything else is, we've become very reliant on China.
Everybody has, yep. Because that's where skilled trades earn you $2 a week instead of $20 an hour. So it says, decided to put in use the vaccine passport, seen by some as a, quote, conspiracy theory until recently to make free travels. While some countries in Europe are afraid of the third wave. Isn't that the Delta variant?
No, because then comes Echo, Foxtrot, and Golf.
And EFGH. What's H?
Hotel.
Hotel. Come on.
Indigo.
Indigo. HIJ. What's J? The Jose variant?
No, not the Jose variant.
The Juan variant?
The Juan?
Juan. Yeah. So Spain, in similar position to Greece, has also supported this idea, but countries such as France, Germany, and Belgium oppose the idea offering the vaccine is still not accessible to everyone and will lead to injustice. They're talking about a vaccine that does nothing, allows you to still get infected even though you've had it, and apparently puts a biomarker in your body. So this is a conspiracy theory that actually came true. The vaccine passport, which was a conspiracy theory a year ago, is now a true thing. Now, Jazmine Star, what if I told you that the U.S. government was trying to get Martin Luther King to commit suicide prior to his eventual assassination?
I would believe that. Thank you, Dot Connector.
Thanks, Dot Connector. Thanks for joining us. So, Electronic Frontier Foundation, I don't care. You know, they used to be such a lefty outfit, but EFF, if you don't pay attention to what they're writing, you need to be, because they're I guess they're kind of aligning with the populists and the people on the right, the real conservatives who are worried about the world, and questioning some of the old official narrative regarding everything that happened during the civil rights movement and the way the government dealt with popular figureheads during that movement, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy and JFK, all four of whom were fucking killed, murdered. I mean, that's a terrible track record for what these guys did, because they all did great things and they were all killed, right?
Well, the trend continues.
Yeah, it does. The inventor of the PCR test was also murdered. But let's not go there just yet, Jasmine Star.
Let's keep our channel for hopefully.
Can we do a COVID-free episode? We did like a year ago. We did like a COVID-free episode, and it was so awesome because we talked about like Florida men doing meth and trying to rob things on a goat and this and that. Like it was just. All right. So the FBI suicide letter to Dr. Martin Luther King and the dangers of unchecked surveillance. This one's actually about 7 or 8 years old, but the New York Times has published a unredacted version of the famous suicide letter from the FBI to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The letter, recently discovered by historian and Professor Beverly Gage, is a disturbing document, but it's also something that everyone in the U.S. should read because it demonstrates exactly what lengths the intelligence community is willing to go to and what happens when they take the fruits of the surveillance they've done and unleash it on a target. The anonymous letter was the result of the FBI's comprehensive surveillance and harassment strategy against Dr. King. And right there, let's just stop for a second. Why would the FBI be harassing Martin Luther King? Just think about what would be their motive. Who writes their paychecks?
They want to suppress anyone or anything that goes against their agenda. Period, point blank. So if it does not meet whatever the agenda is at that time, and his vision, his dream was different. He had a different idea and the way he wanted to see America.
Or the world.
And
you got to wonder, so like what was so different? What was so opposite about his idea that there are powerful men that would like to see him dead? What was the bad thing that he preached? What was the evil thing that he said?
There's nothing evil.
And yet all you motherfuckers out there trust your government. But you trust your government that fucking murdered him.
Well, I just keep going to you know what just happened with McAfee.
Who was nowhere near on the level of Martin Luther King.
No. I'm just saying.
And
I'm like
certainly not as clean cut.
No. But I mean, Bourdain, Michael Jackson.
Bourdain. Yeah.
You know, anybody, people with handlers. You know,
that's true. Bourdain spoke out. MJ spoke out. Prince spoke out.
You have the list.
McAfee did speak out.
We have
certainly Martin Luther King spoke out.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on a list of people that have spoken out that have had, you know,
done.
Actually, I think that's on our list.
So here's a quote from the letter. Previously redacted portion of the letter says, quote, King, look into your heart. You know you are a complete fraud and a great liability to all us Negroes. We will now have to depend on our older leaders like Wilkins, a man of character, and thank God we have others like him, but you are done. This line is key because part of the FBI's strategy was to try to fracture movements and pit leaders against one another. So I'm pretty sure I don't think Martin Luther King cared about Wilkins. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know if there was any, if he gave any feedback about that or if he ever spoke publicly about him. Mm-hmm. But this is this is a psychological operation.
Yeah. And Dot Connector is also saying anyone who goes against the agenda must be eliminated.
And so they go on to say in this letter to Dr. King, no person can overcome the facts, not even a fraud like yourself. Lend your sexually psychotic ear to the enclosure. You will find yourself and in all your dirt, filth, evil, and moronic talk exposed on the record for all time. Listen to yourself, you filthy, abnormal animal. You are on the record. King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. This exact number has been selected for a specific reason.
This is all
MK. It has
MK.
Definite practical significance. You are done. There is but one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation. So this is what the FBI sent to Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And you motherfuckers support and pay taxes to cover these fucking leeches in the government that do this kind of shit. You know? To intimidate a guy who's saying, you know, everybody's equal. Children should afford equal opportunity. Everybody's equal. We all have the same chance. We all have the same shot at life.
We don't.
Well, let's not even go there. Assuming that we do. And he was talking about racial politics, primarily about racial politics, right? Black kids, white kids, Asian kids, Indian kids, and what have you. Everybody's going to get along, and we have an equal playing field. In other words, God loves all children and all people equally. And this is the fucking shit that the FBI is sending him in the mail. To me, that tells you everything you need to know about the people running the FBI or the intelligence community at large.
What's our next theory?
Jess is like, nope, can't go there. Can't go there.
No.
You know, what do you know?
It's so disheartening to know that people just believe that, you know, they want to call you crazy. Yeah. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Right, because you bring up something that creates cognitive dissonance for them.
Because you bring up, and this is where I had that kind of discussion with Jamie Kennedy, or that little comment back and forth.
Everybody follow Jamie Kennedy on Instagram if you can, and on Twitter. He's a great comedian, real super popular about 20 years ago. Just really follow him for real.
Yeah, he has a lot of good things to say, but you know,
he's a free thinker.
He is. But we did, you know, he said, what, you know, why do people get so, you know, hurt about it? And I said, it's because we are challenging and having the uncomfortable discussions that people don't want to discuss.
They want to believe that everything was exactly how they were taught in their school books and in their online learning for the last 50 fucking years, without trusting their intuition, trusting their faithfulness, their faith in God, and their belief in their own tune with the universe, instead of like people who are trying to fuck with that tune and teach them other things, and people who are constantly trying to rewrite history. And speaking of rewriting history,
I want to say you're rewriting history tonight, because I've never heard you drop this many F-bombs in one episode in my life.
Well, I'm trying to impress my family.
Oh.
This is also to make sure that we don't actually end up on FM radio. I know we were talking about doing the FM radio deal.
Oh, okay.
That Naples, Florida thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And
you don't want us to be on the radio.
I need the option of being able to express my true level of, you know, I guess anger. But I don't know. It's that, like, there's no sense of justice. Like that this phrase keeps resonating with me. And I think about it a lot. The phrase is, there is no justice in this world. Like, the people who control the system of justice are the same people who control the system of exchange. Justice is not possible here. But anyway, did you know, Jasmine Star, that magnetic materials and money can be used to determine the number of bills a person is carrying?
Yes, sir, I did.
You knew this?
I did.
How did you know this?
That's why they sell those things that you can put your money in, and your with your credit card. That way, when you're walking through the airport and all that stuff, they can't count or scan. It protects how.
Oh, you mean like a shielded wallet, like
yeah.
a RFID wallet? To
yes,
prevent...
thank you.
I thought those were to prevent people from like reading your credit cards for using a magnetic induction or something.
Magnetic
like that.
material, yeah. They put the magnetic strip in there. It's no different.
All right, so the lone gunman from the TV's The X-Files might be pop culture's most famous conspiracy theorists. They took their name from the conspiracy surrounding President John F. Kennedy's assassination, in which the primary informant to the investigator questioning the Warren Commission was a guy who would only identify himself as Mr. X. He was some high-up guy that apparently had a conscience. By the way, quick aside, we listened to a great podcast called The Conspiracy Show today on the way from Texarkana to Vicksburg. And the host of that show was interviewing the script writer of the new Oliver Stone film about the JFK assassination called JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass.
Right. They probably will never release it here in the U.S. just because of the way it is here.
It's like Oliver Stone is asking to get shot. Oh my gosh. Like they are going to run that guy down the same way they did Stanley Kubrick. Like he's asking for it. I hope that never happens. I hope
that never happens too. But after listening to this podcast today and the information that Oliver Stone was putting out in this documentary and everything, like I
can't wait to watch it. Yeah.
I want to see it, and I hope I have an opportunity to watch it because. So
real quick summary on this. So Oliver Stone, obviously he directed the 1991 film JFK, which is actually a really entertaining movie. It's a thriller. It's a courtroom thriller about the guy who was trying to get through to the people investigating the JFK murder on the record, and he kept getting shut down. And finally, there's this big courtroom drama that makes up the entire third act of the movie, where he's basically appealing to people to say, hey, this is bullshit. Everybody knows this is not true. Who's paying all of you people to sit there and do nothing? And this was back in, I think, JFK was murdered on November 22nd, 1963. So I think the Warren Commission convened in 64, and maybe this trial happened in 65. But this was long after Lee Harvey Oswald was dead, after Ruby was dead. Like, there was just no possible way to solve this crime at that point. But then what happened is, in the early 90s, a new commission convened, and they declassified like 1 million pages of shit from the CIA. And then in 2017, under the Trump administration, they declassified a few thousand more pages, and it had names like George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld. I mean, we're talking about people who didn't come into popularity politically until the 80s and 90s that were involved in the assassination of JFK as younger men.
Well, and honestly, as soon as you said Rumsfeld, I just said, I got goosebumps. So that should tell you something right there.
There's some disturbing. So anyway, we're looking forward to checking out that new documentary. My spidey senses
went off with that.
So, but getting back to magnetic materials and money can be used to determine the number of bills a person is carrying. In this one X-Files episode, lone gunman John Fitzgerald Byers tells Mulder and Scully about a dark network, a government within a government controlling our every move. The proof, he says, can be found in a $20 bill. He takes one from Scully and rips it up, revealing the anti-counterfeiting strip. They use this magnetic strip to track you. Whenever you go through a metal detector at an airport, they know exactly how much you're carrying. Now, this was debunked by Snopes. It says Snopes has debunked this story, saying that according to rumors, the security thread is, quote, to allow the government to know exactly how much money anyone is carrying at any particular moment. The rumor is bunk. The strip's sole purpose is the foiling of counterfeiters. But while that last statement is likely true, there's also evidence that the lone gunmen were technically right. In 2011, Christopher Fuller and Antio Chen, both of the University of Washington, released a study called Induction Detection of Concealed Bulk Banknotes. They reasoned that because American currency has magnetic materials, it should be possible to detect how much money somebody was carrying on them. According to a 2012 New Scientist article, the physicist found an ordinary handheld metal detector, which was able to pick up a dollar bill from 3 centimeters away, and placing the notes behind plastic, cardboard, and cloth did little to block the signal. So there's magnetic resonance. That proves two things. One, there's magnetic resonance being used at airports.
Well, of course, you have to step through the
scanners.
Yeah.
So they know how much cash you're carrying.
And what do you have to do? Like, I mean, the main thing, you step in, you have to pretty much hands up.
They take a naked picture of you.
Yep.
Basically
Hands
with a
up.
quick little MRI. No radiation there.
Yep.
And then...
I wonder if they get the serial numbers off of my silicone when they do that.
Silicone? Nah, that's not possible. So, I think it's...
I always set those things off, too.
Is this why they're so against gold and silver, you think? Or you think that, like, if you just carry around gold and silver, what happens if you go through one of those and you have, like, 10 pounds of gold on your person? I mean, they're going to set you aside and give you the Fokker treatment.
Oh, my gosh. Do you want to know a funny story about going through TSA?
Yeah, of course. Always. TSA stories are the best.
So I went through with a breast pump once.
Hashtag TSA breast pump. Here we go.
And they had to put it in, like they have like the little bomb scanner thing.
They put the breast pump in the bomb.
Okay, so my oldest son is 20. So obviously this was like shortly after 9/11. And so when I flew,
So this is right after they hired all the people that just got fired from McDonald's to go work at the TSA.
So it looked like it was a black briefcase. And so I go through like the TSA thing, and then they pull me aside and they take me over, and they're like, they have to like check it, and they're running the thing for like the residue, and then they put it in the machine, and they're like, what is this? And I'm like,
that's milk, sir.
I'm like, that is a breast pump. And they were like,
2 weeks before that, they were flipping burgers at Wendy's. So what do you expect?
It's like it looks like it has, the two milkers and like, but I'm like, I don't know. Anyway.
That's a good one. So I've never been caught with the breast pump.
So yeah, I'm like,
I did get pulled out of line one time so a guy could go over my crotch 3 or 4 times with a close-up scanner.
My crotch always goes off.
My crotch goes off all the time too.
You had surgery though. I have no excuse.
Yeah, I have a hernia mesh.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, my crotch and my ankle, I guess they're always hot.
And maybe you have one of those Dr. Bear UFO implants.
Maybe I do.
Maybe Shiloh is your handler.
Maybe so. Maybe that's why I have a Pleiadian dog.
Jasmine Star, why don't you let everybody know how to get a hold of us and follow us, including smashing that like button. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
And subscribe, of course, on YouTube so you can find out when we go live, which is every other Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central.
Yes. Obviously, our YouTube channel here, Trouble in Paradise, hit and smash that like and subscribe button. That way you get notifications when we go live. Please join in on the live chat. Instagram, Trouble239, Twitter at Tipcast239, email trouble@trouble239.com, Patreon.
And for real, email us. If you want to talk, we'll read your email on the show if you'd like. We'd be happy to do that.
Patreon, Trouble239. If you join Patreon, we actually send you some really cool stuff.
Like cassette tapes.
Mixtapes.
We'll send you a special mixtape.
Audio is available on all major podcasters, especially on Apple Podcasts.
Yep. Leave us a review, please. We prefer 5-star reviews on Apple. That helps us gain some traction. We really want to reach people. We know there's a lot of people out there that are as sane as we are and as grounded as we are. We'd like to resonate and increase the voice for everybody.
Yes, and again, the content presented by Trouble in Paradise contains speculation and conjecture and is not intended as educational material or advice. It is therefore not misinformation and does adhere to YouTube's community guidelines.
All right, well, Jasmine Star, we got to let everybody know. Stay out of trouble. And
how do you turn this thing off?
The Trouble in Paradise podcast is intended for mature audiences. This means you will hear realistic adult language such as and go off. Audience discretion is advised.